As the coronavirus pandemic continues to spread across the U.S., a growing number of people are dealing with food insecurity.
The coronavirus pandemic has made it more difficult for many Americans to put food on the table. According to the nonprofit group Feeding America, more than 50 million people could face hunger before the end of the year, and that includes 17 million children.
Food insecurity in America doubled in the first few months after the coronavirus arrived. A recent CBS News poll shows more than 1/3 of Americans are at least somewhat concerned they won't have enough money for groceries in the next year.
Food insecurity is a term that essentially means that household or that individual lacks consistent access to adequate food because of resources. They don't have enough money to always be sure that they're going to have the food that they need.
Food insecurity is a growing issue that has become increasingly dire in recent months. Due to the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, over 50 million people are food insecure, including 17 million children. Food insecurity can be caused by numerous factors, including battling poverty, being housing insecure, and having medical debt.
Food insecurity is part of a much larger problem of material hardship in this country, and that addressing one, like for example, through food pantries only or food banks only, isn't going to get to the root cause, right, of material hardships. But we know that people in general, they will make decisions about how to use their finances, and if they're looking at food, housing, and medical care, and they have to sort of decide between these, what ends up is that they end up juggling, right? So they might have access to food for the first couple of weeks in the month, and then when their food budget runs out, then they're really scrimping. But then they might prioritize rent when rent is due.
This pandemic showed the reality about food insecurity. Don't have enough money to buy your own groceries because you gotta choose priorities. People understand if I'm gonna save some money with food, I can pay my rent, I can pay my mortgage, I can pay college for my kids. This is something that is incredible to see in America right now.
Food insecurity deserves to be focused on in the Biden-Harris administration. All too often, food insecurity isn't widely spoken about in Congress or the White House and fails to make headlines in the news. But make no mistake, the effects of being food insecure are drastic and desperately need to be addressed.
The children are the most affected in these circumstances with food insecurities. They end into not performing well in school, they have mental health issues.
From a food insecurity spot, the higher fat, higher salt, lower nutrient foods tend to be purchased because they're more affordable, and that leads to your illnesses, your high blood pressure, your high cholesterol, certainly obesity, and it's a cycle that unfortunately keeps continuing.
Although many efforts have been made to reduce food insecurity, including opening food banks, we cannot adequately solve America's food insecurity crisis without our government passing legislation that works to address the economic inequalities that contribute to the problem in the first place.
An increase of this magnitude could harm American businesses, could harm American consumers, and certainly will harm American workers.
If the policies advocated by Democrats running for president take hold in the White House, we'll go back to policies that would wreck the economy.
I think this is just a socialist agenda, really.
We have an economic system that systematically makes it hard for people to satisfy their basic needs. We don't have a minimum wage that actually is a livable minimum wage. And we don't have rules about things like providing benefits to workers. So that means that people become in debt because of medical expenses, which contributes to their food insecurity. We're never gonna get our way out of these high this high prevalence of food insecurity if all we're doing is responding to it as an emergency. We have to think about the system, our economic system, and the ways that this economic system systematically disadvantages some people and will continue to keep them in these insecure situations unless something is done.
Many issues deserve to be explored by the new administration and new Congress, but food insecurity must be a top priority.
Hunger is a political condition. And what I mean by that is we have the money, we have the food, we have everything we need, we just don't have the political will. And I would like to think that under this new Biden-Harris administration, the political will be developed, and we will aim to try to create a hunger-free country.